Hello and welcome. I'm Sulaiman. I led tonight Nigerian governors to meet with the President, Muhammadu Buhari, over the nation's economic downturn. The Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative rubbed minds with the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, over ways to curb billions of dollars in oil revenue leakage. Senate President Bukola Saraki reads riot acts to government agencies who fail to remit federal government revenue to the Federation accounts. And several mosques are hit by a series of explosions in the Yemeni capital Sana'a, causing dozens of casualties.
And on Business Tonight, Bureau of Statistics report shows 13 states of the Federation are yet to submit report of their internally generated revenue for the 2014 fiscal year.
And on sports news, Confederation of African Football CAF slammed Super Eagles midfielder Ogenyi Onazi with a 2-match ban.
We begin tonight with plans for a meeting between the President and governors of the 36 states of the Federation to work out ways of resolving the country's economic situation. After a meeting of the Niger Governors Forum, the governor of Zamfara State and chairman of the forum, Mr. Abdulaziz Yari, told journalists that the current state of the country's economy requires urgent attention from both the federal and state governments. The forum also promised to offer a hand of fellowship to the President and members of the National Assembly towards the nation's economic development.
Nigerian state governors arriving for the meeting convened to brainstorm on how to build a lasting democracy and ensuring that its dividends get to those who elected them. It's the first in the series organized by the forum since the newly elected governors took up the mantle of leadership. Reports that most state governments are owing salaries and other backlog of debts are some of the issues receiving attention here. After about 5 hours of closed-door meeting, the governors came up with these resolutions.
We are trying to see that we find a lasting solution, as we just mentioned in our communique, that we are seeing President to sit down with him. As we are bad, that's as well as the federal government is also on the same thing, because some of the agencies were not paid salary for 6 months, and you agree with me. It's not only state, so therefore is the problem of the entire nation, not only state. So therefore we are going to work with the Senate to cross our fingers, meet with the President, so that we can get a lasting solution to this problem.
The forum also came up with a resolution on how the federal government can assist states suffering from the Boko Haram attacks.
Various issues of national interest to be discussed with Mr. President in order to seek a lasting solution for the economic challenges confronting the nation.
On the issue of whether to seek for a bailout to clear the issues of unpaid salaries, some of the governors had this to say.
We could do a lot better if so much has been stolen. First order the so-called SS crude, but also direct stealing in the guise of subsidy, direct stealing from SS crude to fund all kinds of things, and various agencies of government treasuries are emptied, and so on and so forth. So it is not, a lot of people say, because of a drop in oil prices, that is not it. I think the real way forward is that, thank God, it's a new government. They have to block all the leakages.
It's a national issue, and as a forum, we've agreed to reach out to Mr. President and get this issue sorted out. It is a national issue. No problem. We're going to get over it.
Workers in states affected by the harsh economic realities in the country have continued to cry out for help. It remains to be seen if some of the decisions reached at this meeting will translate into making life more meaningful for them.
Ahead of the planned meeting of governors with the president, the vice president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has met behind closed doors with the chairperson of the International Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. The purpose of the meeting was to see how leakage of billions of dollars in oil revenue can be curbed. AET's chairperson, Mrs. Claire Short, is confident that the Buhari administration will fulfill its pledge to stamp out corruption and ensure transparency in the natural resources industries. According to Mrs. Short, her visit has been fruitful, as Vice President Osinbajo promised that her team's recommendations can be implemented. Chairman of the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, Mr. Ledumite, who accompanied Mrs. Short, agreed that with the dwindling oil price, it is imperative that leakages are plugged.
And we thought that it was a wonderful opportunity coming at this time with a new government that is committed to transparency, accountability, and reform in the oil industry. At a time when the oil prices are going down, there is absolute need and imperative for all of us to plug all the holes and recover all the monies that we can, which has been the highlights of the 90 reports which we have been dishing out over the years. And I think that it was an opportunity that, and a wonderful, we felt honored that the International Board felt able to hold the implementation committee meeting here in Nigeria. It couldn't have come at a better time. And I think it was wonderful meeting the Vice President also, who reiterated the government's commitment to those reforms and the implementation of the reports of.
We visited at this time, partly because it's such an exciting time for the prospects of reform in your country, and the whole world knows you've elected a new government with a commitment to reform. NITI has been one of our best EITI reporting countries in the quality of the analysis of what's wrong, but up to now there's been very little implementation of the reforms that they advocated. Now there's a real chance that those reforms are implemented immediately, and the government won't have to go and do new research. They can take up what's already been exposed and implement, and that's what we discussed with the Vice President, and I think there's going to be a close relationship, and he was enthusiastic. And I'm feeling very optimistic that we're going to see massive reform in Nigeria, that really these rich resources your country owns that haven't brought benefits to the people, especially the poorer people, will be managed much better and start to do that. I think it's a wonderful historical opportunity for Nigeria, and the NITI process will help to create the agenda that can then just go forward and be implemented.
Still an effort to plug revenue leaks in the petroleum industry. The Senate President, Bukola Saraki, has blamed alleged corruption at the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, on what he described as lack of operational budget. The Senate President also warned that the era of government agencies functioning without budgets was over, explaining that it leads to serious leakages, especially in income-generating agencies. Senator Saraki spoke yesterday in his office in Abuja when some civil society groups under the aegis of Civil Society Situation Room paid him a courtesy visit. He also assured the group that the 1999 Constitution Amendment Bill, the 2011 Electoral Act Amendment Bill, and the Petroleum Industry Bill would be given priority attention as soon as the Senate resumes from its current break. The Senate President also asked the CSOs to be more proactive and constructive in their approach to issues. Convener of the group, Mr. Clement Wankwo, commended the National Assembly for the successes recorded in the elections of the leadership of the Senate and the House of Representatives. He promised to work with the National Assembly to evolve issue-based legislations, avoiding unnecessary bickering and confrontation to achieve a stable and conducive platform for the nation's democracy to thrive. In part 2, after the break, 43 victims of the explosion in Monguno Local Council of Borno received treatment at the Maiduguri Specialist Hospital. Stay with us.